What's up, guys? It's Steve Cardenas, aka Rocky the Red Power Ranger, and you are watching Smart Tank Revolution.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Smart Tank Revolution, where we always kick out at 2. It's that time again. I feel like we've been pumping these out consistently, and that's a good thing. So yes, I am solo, and yes, I am Joey, and yes, I know the business. But with that being said, we are going to present another installment of our much loved Essentials. And Donnie has been absolutely killing it with these, every single one he puts out. So it's always definitely tough to up my game and make sure I stay, on par with the content that he's presenting. But so he did a very big heavy hitter for our 200th video posting. And I thought it was apropos, and I thought it was unbelievable as always. So kudos on that, Donnie. If you haven't checked it out, it's the Smart Tank Essentials Hulk Hogan. Definitely one I recommend. But we're going to go in a completely opposite direction today because you know me. I love to go against the grain. I'm a contrarian, so just my nature. So we won't be doing a humongous superstar or, Hall of Fame icon yet. And we won't be handling a male. So with that being said, we're going to go in the opposite side of the gender pool, and we're going to be talking about, her as many names, but probably the most notable is Paige from WWE NXT, but her current and government name is Saraya. And so we're going to be talking about one of the newest acquisitions of AEW in Saraya. And I think this was, you know how I do these. I always do them very timely. And so I figured this would be a very appropriate time to drop in my thoughts on Paige/Saraya. And please forgive my voice. I covered the Rhode Island Comic-Con all last weekend, and I definitely caught the plague. So I'm on the, the other side coming out, definitely on the upswing, but I was much worse. So just, put through and put up with what I'm presenting, because I'm not going to be my normal bombastic self, but still going to give you something really good for your eardrums and your auditory senses. So yeah, Saraya. And anyone who's listened to the show, we do these on 2 separate rating scales, and they're both, well, the first one's based on Bret Hart and his autobiography, My Real Life World in the Cartoon World of Wrestling. I think it's something very akin to that. And as a matter of fact, as a sidebar, we got to tell Bret Hart this past week, both Donnie and I, that we do these and we use his scale. And he thought it was really, really cool, because I'm sure it's something he doesn't hear very often. It's not a criteria that a lot of people use as a benchmark. So he thought that was neat. Also, sidebar, he loved the STR championship, television championship, that we have made for the show and made to have indie defenses somewhere down the line. And we're going to put that and showcase it on the show in a video soon, because it really is a beautiful belt and quite good craftsmanship. And, it's the brainchild of both Donnie and a designer, and it really sings. But anyways, getting back to Saraya. So obviously the way we do this is first we go by Bret's criteria, then we go by our own. I like ours better, but I didn't tell Bret that. Maybe next time. So his criteria is basically the first category out the gate, and this is a very subjective one, I feel, because it doesn't really tell you where somebody's going to go, but it's wrestler's look. And Bret scores all his criteria from 1 to 10, and we go from 1 to 5 just to kind of differentiate it. So from 1 to 10, their physique, appearance, and presentation, how they look when they walk through the curtain and hit the stage. When you first see them in front of you, what does it present in your mind? Like, what does it make you feel? So for Saraya, or Paige, when she was first introduced to the mainstream, she was interesting. She was basically presented as the anti-diva, which was the norm in WWE at that time. Everyone was, for female, was a superstar or a diva. They weren't taken as very serious women wrestlers, which they always should have been, because it really did them a disservice to not give them that title. So for Saraya, I would have to say on a 1 to 10, she was a tiny little thing when she first started. She's never been, that big of a stature or a figure, but she had a very distinct look to her that has been absolutely copied and, you know, um, worked upon with other females since then. It's been copied and, emulated, and rightfully so. It was very, very cool and very unique. She had her, dark goth hair, leather jacket, dark trunks, extremely pale skin. So she's one after my own heart because I'm almost translucent. And so it was something different. But it's with the, this is a tough question for me because from a 1 to 10, like I always look at this particular category as if you saw this person in the mall or in front of you at the bank and you didn't see them wrestling and you looked at them, like what would be the first thing that shoots into your head? Would it be an athlete? Would it be a model? Would it be, somebody on TV? Or would it just be, oh, that person probably works as a mortgage broker? So for Saraya, you know, I- I'm definitely gonna go against my norm. From a 1 to 10, I'm gonna give her a 6. She she's better than average, but um, when you first see her without the composition, the music, and the backstory and the intensity, she just doesn't scream wrestler. She more like rock band, Avril Lavigne, punk, emo, that kind of thing. So I'm going to give her a 6 in that category. But next is promo ability. And obviously, one of my favorites because I never love to shut up. So it's scored from a 1 to 10 as well. And anyone listening is obviously a wrestling fan and you know what a promo is. I don't have to digress. It's, the definition is the effectiveness of performing a dialogue or monologue used to advance a storyline. That's something you would tell a network executive. A wrestling fan knows that this is what puts asses in the seats, being on the stick and selling yourself. So with Saraya, um, she's always been good right from the get-go. I mean, this is a woman who grew up in a wrestling family, a very well-known, established wrestling family, traveling around England and, various other spots and countries and territories, as part of a generational tradition. So she was no stranger to a microphone, but she had a different version of what the women were presenting at that time. And you have to remember, Paige came along. She truly was the front line of the women's revolution that we ended up seeing come from NXT with Sasha, Bailey, Charlotte, and Becky. She was the first one. She broke that door open because everyone else, like I said, was a diva or, a superstar. They weren't presented as fierce competitors and seriousness. So her promo ability was unlike everyone else on the roster at that time. She was putting out intensity. And when she would come out, you could tell she was just speaking right from the heart. She didn't seem like she was scripted or given talking points or, direction and, pigeonholed into a certain way of a narrative. She was able to just verbalize and vocalize exactly what she was feeling and make you feel it too, because it was very authentic. It didn't seem anything fake about her. And like I said, she was a spitfire. She wasn't the biggest, but she had so much intensity that you believed her character in the ring. Like you felt it. You didn't feel like you were being sold, a bunch of bullshit. So for promo ability, she's going to get an 8 because especially at the time she debuted, she was by far and away one of the most convincing and interesting promos in the women's division. So yeah, she gets an 8, and she's only improved. If you folks have had the privilege of watching her return recently on AEW, which my hat's off, very, very glad to see her in a world of never say never. This is another one we can check off the box. Good to see her healthy, good to see her mentally healthy and in good spirits and back where she belongs. So yeah, promo is an 8. In-ring work, this is an easy one. Like I said aforementioned, she has been traveling with her family her whole life before she made her big break in mainstream wrestling. So she was no stranger to being inside the ropes. She took to it like a fish to water. So she's always been good from what we've been presented. I've never gone back and watched her in her formative years prior to reaching NXT. Unfortunately, I haven't seen any of that work, but I can imagine she wasn't very green very long if she was green. So in-ring work on a 1 to 10, yeah, that absolutely gets an 8 too. Not the best, great mechanics, very good style, but also not formulaic to the point where you feel like you know where it's going and it's a formality that she'll either win or lose the match. She's really good at her craft and telling a story. So I give her an 8 for sure. Now that's Bret's categories. Switching over to our categories, which Donnie has dubbed the essentials, which I love, which is why we named this whole segment after it. It just rings. We have 3 as well, but ours are way more interesting and less cookie cutter. So the first one Donnie came up with is innovative effectiveness. And I love the terminology of all these. Scored from a 1 to 5. And what that means is the ability to work as both a baby face or a heel, otherwise, i.e. a good guy or a bad guy. And this is a good one. This is a fun one. I've said so many times before that most of the wrestlers on any roster have a ingrained ability to work. I mean, it's like being in the NFL. You're not there because you suck. You're there because there's a reason. But most wrestlers have the ability to work as one or the other much, much better. So some people are born heels. Some people are just white meat baby faces or, underdogs. It's just the way everything rolls. The real gift is when somebody can flip between the two almost effortlessly and as effectively. And it's very tough to find. There's not many people that can do it as equally good. So for this category, Paige is a great heel, or Saraya, when she wants to be. She's got that edge to her, and she's got that chip and, that extreme badass quality that would propel her to that role and make her believable. Like, you could throw a belt on her and have her dominate a division and just run roughshod. But at the same time, she's so good in front of the camera and selling herself to get you to be invested in her, that she's an extremely talented and viable babyface. So she's one of those unique ones, like where you have a Britt Baker, who we haven't seen her really do anything of a babyface yet. She's a tremendous heel and just excels at it. I feel like she would be difficult as a long-term babyface, even though crowds and fans tend to cheer heels into faces, i.e. MJF, the hottest thing in wrestling right now. Even though the dude spit on my belt, I'll still give him props. So I digress. But with Paige's case, she can do both almost as well, because in both of her runs and, character switches, I've enjoyed her in both roles. She's extremely good at being a tweener. So for this, I'm going to give a 4, which is very, very strong and very, very rare. So yeah, she gets a 4 from me. She's good in that category. Now this, classic matches, classic rivalries, again, scored from 1 to 5. Basically what you would consider, if you were thinking about watching some of these people's matches, the highlight reel, like what would be the matches you go to, the first things that pop in your head that are memorable. So let me think. Again, at the time she was wrestling, she really wasn't graced with a whole lot of diversity to work with. It was a lot of the same rerun of feuds, because the women's roster wasn't quite so stacked as it is today. I mean, if she was in there now or before, she would have the Toni Storms, she would have, Lacey Evans, she would have Rhonda, she would have, a litany of people and dance partners. But what she had and what she worked with, like for classic rivalries, like not a ton jump out. Off the bat, the most memorable would be her on again, off again feud with AJ Lee. I think that would be her defining one for sure from me. And yeah, I mean, and she had feuds with the Bellas, and I struggle to really think of a barn burner feud that I can recall, other than her and AJ, which was spectacular. When AJ would mimic her and steal a little bit of her swag, and plus them in the ring killed. So this one's tough. A 1 to 5. I think I'm gonna split the difference and go 3, just because not many come to mind, but the ones that do are worth remembering and watching, and putting yourself, investing the time to see it play out. So again, split the difference. We'll give her a 3. Now, this is interesting, and anyone who has listened to me do one of these before knows that this category is by far and away my favorite category of all the criteria. It's defining and redefining moments, scored from a 1 to 5. The defining moments of a wrestler's career makes sense. So with Paige, again, I keep calling her Paige, but that's really the bulk of her work we saw her as. I know it's Saraya. I'll get used to it, just like had to get used to Bryan Danielson. Took a while, but I got used to it again. 1 to 5. So let's talk about them. She was a huge call up from NXT and extreme standout. She main evented the first takeover, essentially, takeover night 1, with Emma in a wonderful match. And poor Emma is somebody they never showcased right on the main roster. Hopefully they get it right this time, because she's a very talented lady inside those ropes. So that's a big get. And then she debuted on the main roster, the Raw, the night after WrestleMania, and won the Divas Championship in her first inaugural bout, which is almost unheard of and quite a big splash. So like right then and there, you could tell that this was somebody that the WWE and the creative were backing and believed in. So those are 2 big things immediately. Again, she's had big WrestleMania moments. She's had big grandstanding feuds. She's also done something outside the ring, which is really important to, encompassing her entire career as a person, with her movie, with The Rock, her autobiographical movie with Florence Pugh, with her coming up in wrestling, which, if you haven't seen that movie, I highly suggest it. Fighting with My Family is an amazing, amazing movie. And Florence Pugh killed it, just like she kills everything. So that's a big get too, because she also broke through not just wrestling, but entertainment. Then, of course, AEW coming back now after so very long, after a career-ending injury, with her neck. Edge and others have taught us to never say never, but more often you say never in the person's case. But with Saraya, we're very blessed to see her back, and hopefully she's going to be in, rare form and really, really take and show us what we've missed in her absence. If it doesn't work out, I'm sure she'll be around in a high profile capacity for AEW, because pretty sure Tony Khan signed her to a extremely lucrative deal. I'd be surprised if it was under less than 7 figures to get her. So yeah, she's going to be the women's main event of Full Gear against Dr. Britt Baker, my girl, DMD. And I'm torn because I love Paige, but I mean, I'm a DMD boy. I love Bret, and Brit's been really kind of struggling since she dropped the belt, and I would like her to pick up steam again. But do I want to see her do it at Paige's expense or Saraya? No. I think as long as they both look good, I'll be happy, and hopefully she remains healthy. But for career-defining moments, yeah, winning the NXT Women's title, winning the Divas title, being a pioneer of the women's revolution, that we have been blessed with so many amazing female talents that just keep coming through the door, is all because they took a shot and showcased Paige in a way that she should be. So she's left a mark without wins or losses or title runs. So for this one, I'm going to give it a 4. She's still got work to do. Obviously, she's not done yet, thank God. And, we'll see where it takes her. But, yeah, it's going to be an interesting watch. And hopefully this was an interesting listen. And I thank you all for your time. And go watch Full Gear.